Now, would you mind, I want to dive a little bit further into the exact practices of what you do and some of the people listening. Right now, let's talk about COVID because it is the new normal of the workplace, and there's got to be so many things that are different. So, would you mind elaborating how COVID has affected your field and others that you obviously do work for?
Absolutely, Jill. Absolutely. Well, you're right. COVID-19 has really changed the legal landscape. It's changed a bit of what I do. It's also changed the landscape for my clients. We hear the phrase new normal, and my sincere hope is that it's a temporary new normal, and that from that will evolve into perhaps a different workplace, but something that's more normal in terms of some of the social norms coming back, of people seeing one another. Well, I can start with how COVID-19 has impacted my law practice and my life. And it's actually made me quite busy, if you could imagine, since I practice in the areas where people need help. So, for example, in the last 4 months, I spent a lot of time helping my clients to navigate the PPP loans, EIDL loans, all the stimulus package and all the how to furlough their employees in a legal way, how to address employees who might have emergency FMLA leave that they're taking under this new coronavirus legislation that you might be hearing about, the federal, called the Family First Coronavirus Response Act. But I've also been helping my clients a lot with Phase 3 and Phase 4 reopenings. So COVID-19, as we may know, impacts the workplace. Well, first off, it puts up new standards for how a workplace has to operate to be safe under the CDC guidelines, under the OSHA guidelines. These are federal agencies, as many people have heard these terms lately. So I help my clients make sure that their workplace is safe, but I also help them with a lot of the employee issues that are arising. So I can give you a couple of, maybe 3 examples, if that would be helpful.
Sure, please.
Great. I'll, of course, put it in a hypothetical, since I can't, disclose clients' names or identities, privilege and confidentiality. But let's just say I have a client, company A, and they're having the issue that a lot of your listeners might be having, where the employees don't want to come to work, right, out of fear of COVID-19, which is a very common issue we're seeing. So I have clients call me up and they say, hey, Eric, I opened up my business as per New York State. I was allowed to open 3 weeks ago, and I have 10 employees, and 9 are happily coming back, and they've all been taken care of. They've all been paid by me while they were off, and now I have 1 employee who refuses to come back to work, and they're citing fear of COVID-19. And they asked, what should I do? Can I? And I found that a lot of my clients are either fall on one or the other side of the spectrum. They either get indignant and angry, and they seek to fire that person, or they threaten to fire them if they don't come back, or they're fearful of running afoul of the law, and so they capitulate to whatever that employee demands or wants. And so what I try to do, Jill, is I help my clients to dig deeper to find out why the employee does not want to come back to work. Because the reason the employee gives is just as important as the fact that they're not coming back. So if an employee is just saying, well, I have a general fear of COVID-19, I read the news a lot, it makes me nervous, but they can't point to anything that's out of compliance at your workplace, and they can't point to any disability or unsafe working condition, well, then you have one way of approaching that situation where you can make a demand for the employee to come back, and if they don't, it could be considered a job abandonment. But I always tell my business owners now in the COVID-19 that you have to be very careful, and you have to really dig deeper, right? You've got to investigate, you've got to communicate, and you've got to document what's going on. So I've been helping my business owner clients, Jill, to find out what is the employee's issue. Because if the employee tells the business owner they don't want to come back because they have an unsafe working environment, and they can cite specific examples, then the goal has become, how do we correct those unsafe working conditions if they exist? And if they don't exist, how can we demonstrate to the employee that it is, in fact, a CDC-compliant, safe workplace? How do we show that people wearing masks, for example, that there's hand sanitizer at every station, that there are staggered shifts? And if you can show that, then you reduce the risk of having a situation where you terminate an employee and they claim it's retaliation and they claim it's unlawful, and you might reduce the risk of a whistleblower violation lawsuit or a labor law violation suit. So I would say that COVID-19 has really forced my clients, if I get, say, away from the specifics for a moment and into the more general,
Sure.
I'd say that my clients have been more prone to ask questions about, hey, how do I comply with labor and employment laws, right? How do I comply with the standards? It's also forced businesses to really look at how safe the workplace is and to pay attention to the wage and hour overtime laws. Now that their employees are, a lot of them still have employees working from home. People have employees who are telecommuting still. And so keeping track of hours can be a very kind of amorphous task. And you might have employees who are technically allowed to seek overtime pay who are now working many more hours than you realize, and you're not paying them time and a half when you should be. So I would say I've been counseling my clients. I've been helping them work through employee issues and just helping them really to get in touch with New York State. And I found that a lot of them are having a lot of fear of economic insecurity and just fear of what's next. And so they really need a guiding hand to help them through this difficult time.
Fantastic. On that note, we should take our quick commercial break right here, if you don't mind. Eric Sarver, attorney at law, would you mind telling us your best form of contact information?
I'm sorry, do you have my best form of contact information? Is
yes,
that
correct.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Okay. Yes, so the best way to reach me would be, especially right now, as where I'm working from, my home until my office is set up. Again, you can reach me at 917-930-8684, and the best email address for me would be EMS, as in Eric Mitchell Sarver. That's EMS at ericsarver.com. It's ERIC, S as in Sam, AR, V as in Victor, ER.com. And I'd be happy to answer questions about reopening in Phase 3 or Phase 4 or more general business law matters that people are facing.
Fantastic. On that note, we'll be right back after this quick